Okay. All right. Phew. I am recording. All right. Everybody can still hear me? So,
Yes, we can hear you still.
all right.
At least
Yes. Yes. Apologies for those first 8 minutes of technical difficulties. Let's go ahead and jump right into it and skip the pleasantries. Um, so, Moongod, I have questions from the community, but I know the first thing that they want to know, obviously, is what did the bot do this last week?
so not as much as we thought it was going to do because it's been in a massive trade for like the last 3 to 4 days here. It still did 0.52%,
Okay.
which is pretty awesome.
And
But
that's
I
counting
do
up
have
until when?
that's counting up until I believe 3 to 4 days ago. Kind of a little bit of like a overnight time frame there. It's been in a trade for like 3.5 at this point now. Just kind of gobbling up, its position and making a larger and larger dollar cost average. And uh, I have some great news about that as well too. Uh, if
Yeah.
this closes out the way that we're expecting it to, and we're hoping it to, it'll be a little over 11%
Oh
in one
my
trade.
God. Wow.
So we basically would blow our one trade um like position, whatever you want to call it, in one shot here,
And is
by
that
like
would it be so high?
120%.
Would it be so high because of like what we've seen over the past like 24 hours? Would that be part of
Yes.
it? Okay, sweet.
Yes. Yeah. So we I'll just let you guys know we're in a short position right now. We opened up the short position as it was trending upwards and been dollar cost averaging the entire time. So we shorted Ethereum, and it's been a situation where it accumulated a pretty large holding, and so it should be about $2,000, a little bit, probably a little bit more than that,
Nice.
based on about 17,000 is what's in the account there. So, well, 17,000 is what's actively being traded, I should say. Obviously there's more in the account, but that's what's being actively traded. It's about 2,000 is what the returns will end up being for both the Prisma ITF and the NFT side. So it'd
That's
be a
awesome.
total of like $4,000.
Oh wow, wow. That is a good little detail to include in there because people would be thinking 2,000 total, so like 1,000 each. No, 2,000 each for each
Yeah.
account. That is freaking
Yes. Correct.
sweet. Wow.
Yeah. So
That's
it's
that is gonna get you. That is gonna get the ITF fund a little closer to its goal.
yeah. In like in like 1 week we would be like making the returns that we'd expect for like 2 to 3 weeks there.
That's awesome.
It's a really great position to kind of be in. We're very excited about it.
Very very cool. Mr. Yan is saying, so what price should we hope ETH to hit to close that out?
So it's got to get back down to around the 120, the 1725-ish mark, roughly, and that'll close it out exactly where we want it to be. Depending on how things go, if it starts to trend back upwards the other direction, it may dollar cost average a little bit more, and that could raise. But since it started trending back down, it stops dollar cost averaging. So ever since it basically kind of hit that marker at about the 1850, that's when it stopped dollar cost averaging, and it's been holding, waiting for it to kind of come back down a little bit further. And we saw it's already come back down about 3 or 4% here. It's got to come back down about another 2.5 to 3%, and that'll close out the position there. And like I said, that'll be 11% in one trade. But yeah,
Sweet.
that's kind of where we've been at. It's slowly kind of built up over the last like 3 to 4 days. So
That's awesome.
yeah, and then of course with that spike, it really just kind of like gobbled up a massive position there, and really has kind of got us pointing in the right direction. We figure, assuming it kind of continues to trend like this and there isn't any more news, Ethereum should settle back down into about that closing range, probably either late tonight or early tomorrow is the hope. again, that's just kind of like based on how it's come back down and like a slow trend. It'll either be late Eastern Standard Time this evening or probably early Eastern Standard Time this tomorrow morning at the earliest. But we think it'll probably be like tomorrow is when it'll actually come back down into that range, because it was going on a lot of news, and that news was more speculative than anything else. Like, it got added to the website, so a lot of people tried to gobble up the the Bitcoin, the Ethereum side of thing, in the hopes that they could like really get it. And a ton of people have FOMO'd in at this point as well too. But we're expecting it to kind of settle back down once people realize that, like, hey, this ETF isn't actually probably going to be coming out anytime soon, even though they've claimed that they're going to be acquiring like a large Bitcoin position as part of this. They most likely aren't going to be doing it like over the counter in a lot of ways that people would expect. They'll have, I'm going to say backroom, but I don't mean that as like super negative deals, but they'll have ways that they can acquire it without like getting dumped on, is I guess the best way that I can word that. So
that's what I've heard.
BlackRock, BlackRock, iShares, those kind of companies, they're not going to be in a position where like they're just going to buy it off Binance. That's not going to be that's not going to be how it works. So there's also a very high likelihood as well, like in just talking about that they've already acquired those positions anyways, and they'll just open up the trading on it. Like it'll probably be an instance where they'll have collected it in the same way that like Elon Musk did through Tesla and stuff. So there's a very high likelihood that we won't even see a massive spike when they announce like, hey, it's all been approved. There's a good chance they've already got it on the books somewhere, or in some way through like offshoot subsidiary or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if BlackRock had like some, company adjacent that had it, and they're just going to, pay that company for whatever it is, and then now the Bitcoin's on their books, even though they, purchased it through that subsidiary, like, I don't know, a year or two ago or something like that, whatever it would be. So, yeah, that's most likely what's the case.
And it probably wouldn't cause a dip either, because they're just going to be selling they're going to be selling those Bitcoin to people that are going to be holding it, right? It's like going to be part of their in like long-term, so they're buying investment portfolio.
Yeah, so they're effectively buying like an ETF that's going to work similar to like a growth portfolio, where like they'll continue to potentially accumulate a position and have it just kind of go up, but it's not going to be something that's effectively like, I don't think it's going to pay out like a dividend or anything like that. It'll basically just be something where like, if you want Bitcoin exposure in a controlled environment, this ETF is how you can kind of do it through the finance industry. And that's kind of the big thing that they get there, is that with like an ETF, they can charge fees on that as well. So it's a case where it's like, BlackRock and companies like that aren't really in like a losing situation to kind of provide something like this, because they can just say, yeah, our ETF is worth X amount, which is the same as like, however much in Bitcoin or whatever they're going to do with it. I haven't looked into it like resoundingly too much, but it's very much so going to be a case where it'll just basically be held like a growth stock, so to speak.
I gotcha. All right, let's get into Blacksmith's questions. So his first question was, how much is currently in the Prisma Bot NFT sub account?
17,000, roughly. Like, I mean, it's like 17,100 or something like that.
Okay, and for the ITF fund, that's like all of it. All of its funds are in there, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's about 16,300 or 400 or something like that.
Okay. How many more weeks until the NFT account is fully funded, do you think? I know it's a tough question, but
yeah, we were hoping to be able to kind of continue to load up the NFT like with about $10,000 each a week. But with this higher amount that we've got in here, and with the fact that it's still in kind of the middle of a trade, and we're not really sure how things are going to kind of go with the whole ETF situation, because I mean, we saw a 12% swing on Bitcoin and over a 10% swing on Ethereum. And our bot was able to power through it, but it's still a case where, we don't want to run into a situation where like we miscalculated something, and if it goes to like a 12% swing, we have an issue. So we're still going to slow play that up. The next amount that we'll probably deposit will be anywhere from like 20 to 30,000, and that'll probably be at a minimum of like another 2 weeks out, I would say.
Okay, cool.
That's just more for safety and security than anything else. Is we don't want to load everything up front and then realize that we have an issue later on down the road. So it's kind of a slow process, but it'll probably be about roughly, I would say about 20,000 ish to kind of get us up into that like $30,000 to $40,000 range, and then from there, assuming we don't have any issues, it'll probably be in about another 2 weeks on top of that, and then we should have it pretty much fully funded, I figure. So we're looking to get into like the $35,000 to $40,000 range, and then from there we'd be looking to get into the about $55,000 to $60,000 range, and then we'd have the remainder amount in there. So if you take into account about 2 weeks for each of those, that would be about how long it would take. So about another month will be basically fully funded, is kind of the hope there. Another month and a half.
Cool. All right. All right. He said, what's a win the team had from last week? I think you already told us about that with the potentially 11% position that you guys are going to close probably tomorrow. And he says, what was an opportunity the team had, and what solution did you come up with? Maybe.
Well, I'll just answer it with this. So the massive solution that we came up with is the bot that we're actively using right now. So the biggest fear that we had with the older bot was a situation like this one. The V1 of the bot, is I guess what we'll call it, would not have made it through this. That's just the honest to God truth here. It's why we needed to kind of further make some adjustments. It could handle quite a bit of a price movement, but it couldn't handle it in the same short period of time. So like if it slowly and gradually went up, it wouldn't have an issue. But with the back testing and everything that we've had, it would have gotten liquidated, in this one when it had that mass spike.
Oh, wow.
Which is part of the reason why we moved away from it, is that, there are some of those like crazy black swan events that we were kind of talking about here. But as we were kind of doing some deeper information and some, further data gathering, we found out that it can have some issues with the way that it was trading. And this is a great example of like a position that we wouldn't have been able to, hold fast through, so to speak. It very much so, the risk of liquidation would have been extremely, extremely high with this, barely making it by, on the skin of its teeth. Whereas the current position that we're in right now, we still don't have a liquidation price. So that was one of the things that we, fully updated when we realized some of the issues that we were initially having with the development of the V2 bot here. And I guess I should kind of phrase that a bit better. I'm not talking about the first bot that we had. The first bot that we had wouldn't have been able to do 11%. But the first iteration of this current new bot, so I guess the V2.1 bot, which is what we're using now, I guess we'll call it that, wouldn't have had an issue with, or isn't going to have an issue with liquidation, versus the original V2 bot that we were originally testing and were going to release, and then we had to delay it. That one would have been liquidated based on the current trading process that it was going through, which is why, speaking about the problems that we have and how we had to overcome them, is that, we built these into the models that we were testing this on so we could try it out. And this one handled it flawlessly, but the original version of this bot would not have been able to do it. And so that's why we made some of those adjustments. That's why we had to push it back. And that's why, we've been very transparent about like why it's taking us longer to get through this, is we've got to test everything, all variables that we can come up with and think of. So Yep, that's been a
Cool.
huge thing that we had to overcome, and I'm glad we did it because 11% is going to be a massive return
I
once this thing closes
know.
out.
That's awesome. I mean, just like seeing the stuff that you've been saying in Discord, saying how like this spot is performing pretty much 50% better than the last one. Um, you know, that's what everybody wants to hear. Um, all right, Blacksmith says, since the last update, how many round trip trades did the bot make? Oh, can you guys hear me? Oh, Matt's probably.
I had to tab to a different page to look that up, and it doesn't let me do push to talk from a different page. So 63 is where we're at so far. 100% win rate.
Nice. That's how many trades it did this past week?
That is how many trades it's done so far, not including the one that it's in right now.
Oh, okay, like
Because there's multiple trades inside of like a trade for the one that we're in right now. So that one hasn't been accounted for yet because it's not closed. But
okay.
guess what? We're like $40 away from it closing. Yeah.
Sweet. All right. So Timber Sky is asking about the DAP. I guess the website, which will have the visuals and whatnot. Do you have any updates on that?
No time frame on that yet. Still being worked on.
All right. Ms. KCC was asking about trading Bitcoin since it seems to move more. Is there more room to make gains in trading Bitcoin? Well, what's the deal on that?
So we started off with Ethereum because percentage-wise changes, it doesn't require nearly as much to make a decent amount. And it's less, I'm going to say, volatile to a certain extent, in terms of like crazy price movements and stuff like that. So like even a great example is like looking at this one. Bitcoin and Ethereum didn't go up at the same percentage amount. If memory serves, Bitcoin at the top was like 13-14% or something like that, or some crazy amount. And Ethereum, it got up to a little over 10% within a 24-hour period there, at like the height. So it kind of gives us a little more wiggle room. That means that the profits are going to be a little bit, smaller and slimmer in that aspect. But it allows us to kind of control our position a little bit better. That doesn't mean that we won't have some form of like Bitcoin bot. We're testing it. But a lot of our focus has been on this one with Ethereum because it's just a little bit easier to kind of go through and trade. It's not necessarily the first thing that someone goes to buy when they're looking to get into crypto. Like when people hear crypto, they think of generally two coins. They think of Bitcoin and they think of Dogecoin, so those are kind of like the first two that come to kind of the forefront there. One of them is just a straight up degen meme coin, that all of us love, whether or not you're invested in it. The other one is kind of like the bread and butter blue chip that everyone is going to go into first. So like when they hear about crypto, they think Bitcoin. Or what is that dog coin that everybody's got or something like that? And, my mother asked me about that one point. So yeah, Ethereum's kind of the better position to be in just for at least this time frame. But eventually at some point in time, we'll expand that out. We've already done some testing on some other tokens and some other coins, just to kind of see how it goes. But yeah, we're always looking to expand.
Cool. What's like another token that has some potential, like other than the obvious one of Bitcoin?
In theory, like an XRP, or something along the lines of that. So I guess what you could consider like a tier. I hate to call it like a tier 2, but like you've got your tier 1, which would be like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and you got your tier 2 of tier 1 tokens, which would be like your BNB, your XRP, your stuff like that. So that would most likely kind of be any of those major ones that you could think of, outside of what would be considered like a meme token. So like I wouldn't consider XRP to be like a meme token or anything like that. Same thing with like BNB, but like Dogecoin or like Shiba Inu, that would never be a token that we would consider trading, at least not with the bot. there's too many other factors that would be associated with it that there's no way to predict it.
Right, right. And BNB, would you ever consider BNB, or is that doesn't move
That's a
enough?
possibility, yeah.
Yeah.
The trouble that we kind of face with BNB is you can kind of run into the same issues with like Bitcoin and Ethereum. One of the positives about those is there's not really like a company or a force or a face behind them, so to speak, anymore. Like they basically are just fully autonomous, is what I like to kind of call them, where they're their own things at this point. Um,
Yeah.
there's not a company that's making updates or edits or changes to them, whatever you want to, call it. So there's not really somebody that you can sue, I guess is the best way to word that.
Hmm.
Binance and XRP and other projects and tokens and coins like that, there's a team, there's people behind it, there's a company or an LLC or whatever you want to call it. So the biggest issue that you kind of face there is that those can be affected similar to how Binance was and BNB was when the SEC came after them for no reason other than uh, cookies. I mean, I couldn't give you a better reason for why the SEC came after him other than the SEC's got nothing better to do with their time. Um, and so that's kind of the issue that we face with some of those other coins and such, is that we have to be very, very careful about how we're doing that. The other big thing about them as well too is we also have to be very, very careful about the volatility on those as well too. Um, and this is just saying this straight out the gate, is like even with like an XRP, the biggest trouble we'd face with those would be like when the SEC effectively like backed off on their lawsuit and XRP shot up like I think it was like 60 or 70% or something like that in like minutes. That would have been a very, very tough thing for our bot to even come close to handling. Like it's just with the current iteration that we have, it's not optimized for that at all. So yeah, it there's a lot that would have to go into it. There's a lot of like historical data we'd have to do. We'd have to start testing with like a very, very small amount, let it run for an extended period of time, and have to deal with some of the nonsense that's kind of out there with those.
Right.
Um, but yeah, that's kind of the best answer that I can give there.
All right. And Cyril is dropping some knowledge on us, saying that Bitcoin and Ethereum are the blue chip coins, and stuff like XRP, XLM well, he had blue chip tokens. He just changed it to blue chip coins. And then BNB, Matic, Arbitrum, etc. are network tokens. For the newer to DeFi people, coins and tokens are two different things. Yeah, he's saying coins are native currency of a blockchain, tokens something paired to something else.
Yep. Basically, the gist of it is like for the blue chip coins, for sure it's going to be Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then the secondary blue chip coins would be considered like your XRP or XLM stuff like that is what he's kind of saying. And then there's the network token like your standard BNB, AVAX, Matic, ARB. I don't think Optimism has one yet, but
Why is BNB
yeah.
considered something different from Ethereum? Because I don't know. To me, they're both blockchains that have tokens on them.
I believe it's just kind of the way that they're set up is the reason behind it. Um,
Oh,
it's
Cyril is saying because
yeah.
BNB gets its price from its pairing with Ethereum and USDC.
There
Interesting.
you go. That's what it is. So it's does a token have a price on its own, or is it paired to something else that gives it its price, kind of thing. So
Holy cow!
yeah.
Matic gets its price from wrapped Ethereum pairing on Polygon. Goodness.
Yep.
I'd invite him up to speak, but I don't know. If you want to speak with us, Cyril, feel free to put up your hand, man. But otherwise, we always appreciate you being here. The negative.
He's
Okay.
just dropping some knowledge for
Yep.
new people, just in
Cool.
case.
Cool. All right. Let's see. Let me see what other questions we got. Let me Well, this is a question we kind of discussed in the Discord, and there's no real answer to it. But if you just want to give your thoughts on it, Andrew from Zoin was asking, would Prisma and One consider doing another round of NFTs for people who missed out on the first round? And I'll just say first off, um, if we did, it would not affect the original NFTs. Um, it would not like dilute anything, obviously, because it would be separate funds, a separate account on the bot. And plus, honestly, we haven't talked about it. So it's, if it happened, it would be far in the future. How far in the future, I have no idea. But I know that we had always kind of talked about at year 2, when we do the first payouts, of people that wanted to like reinvest their profits, we could, potentially put out an NFT, and they could buy that NFT with, some of their profits, and it would be similar to having reinvested that money, because there were people that wanted to reinvest at year 2 and people that didn't want to reinvest at year 2, and we can't, it's all or none. We got to either have everybody do it or nobody do it, because we can't, it would be impossible to keep track of who's done it and who hasn't unless we did another NFT line. So anyways, Moongod, feel free to throw in whatever you want there.
Yeah, so I'm not going to say no to an NFT line 2 or version 2 or however we want to call that. What I will say though is that, it's going to come with like large stipulations on top of even what Oliver just brought up there. That first and foremost, like our idea behind this isn't to like fully into just doing NFTs, and that's the only thing. Like we have a lot of other stuff that we're working on that we'd like to expand to. Like we're literally just getting our feet wet in the passive income game here. But with that being said, it's very much so a case where anything that we do in terms of like a round 2 of these would probably not come, until like year 2, year 3 at the earliest. That's if we decide to go that route with it. And the other like heavy stipulations that we have to have in there as well too is like, one, I don't want to put any other portion of our project or any potential other projects, if we do something like that, where like we do a group round of NFTs or something for ourselves and other teams, we would not have any form of like sacrifice or giving up of tokens. I know some people were throwing around the idea of maybe having it be backed by like 3 token or something like that. The problem with that is we'd effectively have to sell off those tokens in order to fund it in the way that we would need to, in order to be able to kind of, have the bot do its thing. So what that would mean is if we had, I'm going to throw out some random numbers here, but like, let's say we had 100,000 3 tokens, we'd have to sell those in order to get the necessary funds to be able to fund the NFT bot. So it would be a case where we wouldn't want to use like 1 token, 2 token, 3 token, even the Prisma token or anybody else's token in that aspect, because it would just be, let's say we raised another $80,000 like we did with this, this instance. None of our projects could handle, trying to sell off $80,000 worth of tokens. That just that wouldn't work.
Sure. Yeah.
So we could never do it in that aspect. And then the second thing as well too, and this is, as much as other people might hate me for saying this, I don't want to make stuff that's out of reach of the everyday holder. So like for me, I don't want to necessarily release NFTs and be like, yeah, you got to pay like 10 grand to get into this thing. I don't like stuff like that. Because that ostracizes the vast majority of crypto. Like, yes, we're going to have whales that are out there that are going to throw, quite a bit of money potentially at these NFTs if we do end up doing a round 2. But it would be a case where, if we do end up doing a round 2, we could always do like more NFTs. But I don't want to put us in a position or put us in a place where we're saying that, hey, the vast majority of all of our holders are going to be at the short end of the stick here. or they have to be just, throwing an obscene amount of money at it in order to be able to get in. That's never been, our mentality, both from the Prisma side and the one token side. So, I mean, these are meant to be NFTs for I'm gonna just say for the everyday man, so to speak, and that's the reason why we decided with these first ones that it's just going to be one BNB a piece. It's not a crazy over the top cost, but it's enough where it's it's going to get us the necessary funds where we don't have to wait like 10, 15, 20 years to really kind of get into that, that hardcore returns and such. But at the same time, it wasn't something where it was like for most people that's not, out of their reach, so to speak. I know that's not the case for everybody, depending on like where they live, where they're from, but for a lot of people, one BNB or what started off as like 240, which got down to about 205 during the bulk of the selling of those NFTs, they're able to kind of afford that versus the alternative, which would be like if we charge somebody $10,000 with it, like how much, how many people could afford to be able to get into that? I know rightly, if you were to ask me to drop $10,000 on that, I couldn't do it. And that's just one of those things where it's like I have stuff in certain places where I just wouldn't be able to pull those funds together just like at the snap of a finger kind of thing.
Sure.
So I don't want to ever do that to anybody else.
Yep. No, that's understandable. So yeah, I think that was a pretty good answer. If there was anything, another NFT done, it would not be for at least a couple of years, and it would be something probably similar to what we've done here. It would be affordable, and in 2 years' time, who knows, what we're gonna learn. But there's gonna be a lot of data amassed by that time, and we'll be able to decide. But I mean, just looking at it now, I mean, this compounding thing is pretty cool. So I would imagine that if we did another NFT in a couple of years, it would probably be another compounding NFT. Anyways,
I would agree with that. I think that's correct.
yeah. Let's see, what are they talking about here? They're talking about, someone was saying, any chance we can do the same as Warfi, where we can add more money to our Prisma NFT? Moongod, you can go ahead and answer that.
No, I think Cyril answered that accurately there. I mean, it's in effect not the way that the NFT and the DApp is set up to be able to kind of handle this. So it necessarily isn't the best way and would require pretty much a top to bottom restructure of the way that this is working. So yeah, that's just not something we effectively have in here at this point in time.
Yeah. And Cyril is saying something, he's saying better. Anyways, I'll read what he said. He said, would require completely reworking the NFTs and the DApp, not justifiable in the short term to waste time and money on development to do that. Better to just sunset the pool at the end of 2 years and reopen a second round of mints for people who want to roll profits over. So we wouldn't sunset the pool, but that's at that point we could.
He was using that as an example.
I got you. Yeah. We could, but at that
point,
point,
like if we were gonna transition to doing like what Warfi and Warhaven are doing, we would do that after probably year 2, sunset that NFT line, and then create a brand new one. So, yeah. Sorry to jump in there.
Wait, what was that? So repeat that again real quick, Moongod. Sorry, I was typing something.
No, you're good. I was just saying, he basically was just saying that in order to be able to kind of fully adjust to that system, we would effectively, as an example, we would sunset after year 2 the first NFT line, do a second NFT line that would have that functionality in place, and then we just roll right into that second NFT line, and people would just have to buy into that new line of NFTs. And that's just kind of an example if we wanted to update and kind of follow that Warfi system. I mean, it's doable in theory, but again, we could, as we get closer to that, we can put all those options out there for the NFT holders where they can choose on what they want to do. We could go that route with it. We could continue as is, or we could just have a vote to see how many people want to just Right, roll it all back into it and just let's go for year 3 kind of thing, and hit
Right.
stage 3.
Instead of reinvesting half of it, we could reinvest all of
Yeah,
it.
we'll just
Yeah.
reinvest the whole thing. We can,
Yeah.
and that's the nice part about it is the flexibility behind the contract and the flexibility behind the way that we have it set up allows us to do that. Like, it's very much so this fantastic situation that we find ourselves in where when that time frame comes around, we can just ask NFT holders. And since they're NFT holders, and since we're already going to set up a DApp that allows people to connect in to be able to view stuff, we can just put a vote up on there for everything that people want to do. And the cool part about that is as soon as we kind of get close to there, let's say we're like 3 months out, we could put up that, for a vote for all the NFT holders. They could come in and tell us what they want to do. Do they want to continue as is, no change, start doing the, payouts at the end of year 2? Do they want to just roll everything back into this and just get through year 2 and year 3, and then that's when we start the payouts? Do we want to, sunset the first ones and go with one where you can just add and remove funds whenever you kind of want? Yeah, I mean, we could absolutely vote on that, as we get a little bit closer. I think
I
we
think
really want to just
I'm
wait
gonna.
and kind of see how it goes first.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go out on a limb though and say that people want it exactly the way that it is now. Potentially, and I don't even see this being a thing, because I'm pretty sure the majority of people at year 2 are going to be ready for some money. Um, but yeah, potentially, like instead of starting stage 2, where we do 50% reinvested, 50% paid out, at the end of year 2, we could delay that a year and reinvest everything 100% in year 2. But I don't think even that'll be the case. But I'm pretty sure everybody just wants it to stay the way that it is, because what we're doing is radically unique. Nobody is doing what we are doing.
Right.
If
And
you want something like Warfire Warhaven, they're already doing that very well. Like, we don't need to follow their footsteps. Like, we've done something completely new here, and that's what got everybody excited. So this is just
yeah,
I know we're just conversating, but I just want to, like, cool, make anybody who was getting nervous listening to that, like, there's no plans to change anything about these NFTs. I mean, the plan is that these things will go for, decades. So um, I just want
right.
to
And
throw that out
again,
there.
we're just kind of throwing out some hypotheticals there based on, kind of questions that are asked. Like, if we were going to make a change in that aspect, it would be something where, like, at a minimum, we're going to be 1 year, 9 months down the road, and then we'd ask the NFT holders about it and see what they wanted to do. This would not be something that the team is going to make a change at the drop of the hat anymore here. Like, the changes that we made prior to the NFT being launched, those are things like as we were, doing some further math and stuff like that, and adjustments were kind of being made there. We're finalized effectively at this point in time with the way that it's going to work, unless our NFT holders come together and make a different decision. Again, that is something we can, kind of discuss with them as like time goes on. But for the
Yeah.
most part, people should keep in mind that, like, hey, the schedule and everything that we have put up is what we are sticking with at the end of year 2. That's when the first payout will be. It'll be 50% out to holders, 50% reinvested, unless something categorically changes and we've, like, by the end of year 2, we've made like $100 million or something crazy like that. People might just be like, I'm good. Let's just everybody walk away. We're gonna have some parties here.
Okay, so yeah, there
Um,
there we go. There's the stipulation. If we make
yeah,
$100 million by the end of year 2, we'll just pay everything 100% out, and just we'll think about starting a new one. So,
yeah,
uh,
absolutely. Um, but all hypotheticals and fun stuff aside, we're not changing anything about the structure. We're not changing anything about the payouts. It's just people were asking the questions, and we wanted to go over, like, options we've thought about and considered, like what people have brought up. But nothing is going to change. Again, these are kind of some conversations that a lot of times the team will have behind, closed doors. Just to kind of communicate stuff and think stuff out and kind of, talk with each other and kind of, like, see what works and what kind of comes to fruition, and what could potentially work. But it doesn't mean that we're going to make a change. So like we're just kind of pulling back the curtain a little bit here to kind of let you guys see some of the conversations we have, for lack of better terms, behind closed doors. So I don't
Not,
want anybody to panic or freak out.
yeah, and I had to Yanni corrected me, and I actually was thinking about it right after I said it. Even if the bot got to $100 million, that would not be the time to pay out, because I mean, granted, that would be 200,000
Oh yeah,
per NFT, but if we just continue to trade with that amount of money, then that means we'll be making 200,000 a year. So like, why not continue
oh
making
yeah.
that money instead of just paying it out? So yeah, Yanni's saying never kill the golden goose, exactly. So that's the plan. We're just throwing out some whatever. We're just conversating right now. But yeah, the plan has not changed, and I don't see anything that would change it. If at year two, like 99% of the communities of both communities are saying let's reinvest 100% at the end of year two, you know, then we'll listen to you guys.
We'll
But
have the discussion then. Yeah.
yeah, but I don't think that'll happen. I think just we'll just go forward
I
as
don't think
planned.
so either, but I think you're right. Like if we end up hitting 100 million, at the end of year 2, hey guys, guess what? We're already in stage 3. Thumbs up,
There you go. There you go.
It's a
Stage
winning
three.
case right there,
Stage three
you know.
begins. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. So, yeah, no, I mean that's definitely the direction, that we'd like to head, and just like I said, we've kind of tried to let you guys know that like, hey, we think about a lot of this stuff that you guys bring up. Like we don't want you to feel you know, like the communication that you guys have with the team and the questions you guys ask, the ideas that
Yeah,
you guys bring up. Like
yeah.
we go over all this stuff on the back end. So
Yep, yep.
it's
And
not something where like you say something to us and we just like dismiss or forget about anything that you've said. It's like we go over all this stuff. So, yep,
and
it's
like
been
Yanni,
talked about.
yeah, and like Yanni was saying, anything that we decide on has to get Yanni approval. So, and that is not an easy thing. Let me tell you. So,
Correct. Correct.
I
I mean,
like
let's
we.
let's not forget like the stuff that I do and Callie do on this side over here. Like we're super strict about the way that we make our updates and stuff like that as well too. So it's like it's twice as hard for us to make any kind of changes. We got to get Yanni approval, and then it's also got to meet our standards over here on Prisma, which is insanely difficult to beat. So, yeah.
Yep. Um.
Did we
All
have any
right.
other questions?
I have just a random question, and it has nothing to do with anything. It kind of does. Here's my question while Mr. Yan is typing, but we'll answer whatever other questions you guys have. And what's up, Fritz? My question is, why is Ethereum so damn popular when it has such high gas fees? Like, I don't get it. None.
There's just a
Fritz.
ridiculous amount of money that's stuck in it right now. That's the issue. Worse than anything else. That's why we see offshoots of Ethereum, like major offshoots of Ethereum, actually do really, really well. Like Polygon is doing rock solid, Arbitrum's doing insanely, insanely good as well too. Pulse Chain, which again is an offshoot of Ethereum and has drastically reduced the cost of it as well, is doing just crazy, crazy good. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of the oldie but goodie, so to speak. Um,
And so,
and
but
at the same
because I
time,
see,
it's just
yeah, like Cyril was saying, because it was the first layer two that gained that level of attention, so money went there due to smart contract capabilities. I like what I see. He also says, and it's why almost every layer two and new layer one is an Ethereum virtual machine EVM. Right. What I see though is a lot of the tokens that go absolutely insane. Like we saw Pepe do it not long ago. What was another one that did it like not long ago on Ethereum? Um,
why do they do so well? Is that what you're
why?
gonna kind of
Yeah,
ask?
like why do we see that happening on Ethereum? Like we don't see it happening on
Because all the
Binance
money
as
is
often.
stuck there. The money is stuck there, and it's
It's just stuck there.
ridiculously expensive to get it off.
But why is
Yeah,
there
I mean
money?
that's
Like,
I mean
why is there money there if the gas is so expensive?
because it's well, how much gas would you be willing to spend to move something from Binance Smart Chain to Polygon?
I don't know. I don't know why I'd want to do that.
Well, that's the issue that you run into is like, let's say somebody's got like $50 of Ethereum, gas fees over there can sometimes be as high as $100 to $200 for one transaction. Like when stuff is busy, it can be super, super expensive. So it's very much so a situation that like once you get to the point where it's like, you could have bought Ethereum back in 2016, right? You've held on it the entire time, but you've really only got like we'll say I don't know, like $5,000 worth of Ethereum, right?
Right.
Well, in order to kind of get that off, you have to pay those gas fees that are associated with it. So very much so could be a case where you're dealing with like, you know, $50 to $100 in gas fees, and that can be expensive for some people, or they just don't want to deal with that. And there's still a ridiculous amount of money that's kind of sitting over there as well too. And if we're going to be fair, a lot of the other blue chips haven't been able to do what Ethereum does, and so there's a ridiculous amount of money that's just kind of locked in there, and it had such freedom and flexibility with the contracts. And Cyril's correct as well too. Basically, every layer 2 runs on EVM, so I mean that's kind of like it's the baseline for everything. It's the most basic. Yeah, I'm going to say basic code, but it's the most baseline thing that you can possibly be in. So it's like money is always going to kind of flow from there to a certain extent.
Interesting. So it's like a lot of old money. It's the Windows of PC. I gotcha. Even though,
Correct.
even though like some new type of Windows is quicker and better in every way. Because like, isn't Binance better than Ethereum in every way? Or am I totally wrong there? Or is it just cheaper in fees?
I mean, to say that it's better is like not 100% accurate. That's not the way I would describe it. They have
Yeah,
they have different functional things that they're meant to kind of do.
I gotcha.
And that's the better way that I would word it. So the BSC has added benefits that Ethereum necessarily doesn't have, but that doesn't make BSC better or worse than Ethereum. It just kind of they have different functions, so to speak.
ETH has some restrictions regarding how many transactions it can perform.
That's why gas fees are so expensive.
Interesting.
Otherwise, you'd have to wait like hours or even days for transactions to go through.
That happens
Like
on
it just
Ethereum?
well, no, I'm just using that as an example. So like with Ethereum, gas fees can be extremely high, and then the time that it takes is extremely high as well too. Because what Cyril is talking about is most layer 2 blockchains bundle the transactions. So that's why, like, when you look at stuff, it says it can handle X amount of transactions per. What is it called? It's per hash. Is that what it is, or something like that? Where it's like basically you can handle a certain number of transactions per second is what it kind of comes down to. So
Yeah,
like
block. Were you looking
for
thinking of
every
block?
for every 1 second, it could handle like 200 transactions. So like Ethereum's that's not the case. So like BSC bundles them all up to be able to handle them all at one time versus you know, hey, this can do a certain amount. So like Ethereum can handle, I think it's like 50 or something like that. It's like not a lot.
Per second?
Well, so Serial's actually got a better example of it here. If the fee to process a block is $100, you split that up across 10 people, so each person pays $10 in gas. So, as example, if you have 1,000 and 10 people are doing something, it's like $100 per person or whatever it is.
Good
So
lord.
it's kind of broken out like that. Yeah, his example in chat is the better way of doing that. But effectively, it's just they have a different way of processing things. So Ethereum has got certain things that it's good at. Binance has certain things it's good at. Polygon's got certain things that it's good at, and certain ways that they kind of do things that make things either more efficient, less costly, the whole 9 yards. So
Is
that's really the better way to look at it.
so the only reason that Ethereum does better is just more people know about it because it's been there longer. Is that what it is?
Pretty much, yeah. That's the easiest way to kind of look at it. It's
Yes.
Ethereum has been out longer than everything else with the exception of Bitcoin. And it's also like the baseline blockchain that most V2s are built off of.
I have been in crypto since 2021. So, a little over 2 years. I have never once bought an Ethereum token. Never once. It's simply
You should
because
do
of
it
the
on like
gas.
Arbitrum or Optimism. Those are pretty solid. You're still using like Ethereum effectively on there, but it just doesn't cost an arm, leg, and a kidney, and the transactions are pretty quick as well.
Oh,
So
cool. Interesting.
yeah, I've
Didn't
got
know
some
that.
fun stuff that I'm testing out on like Pulse Chain as well too, but I don't know how that's going to go. So
I heard who was talking about Pulse. Oh, Cyril was talking about Pulse. Is Pulse Chain even like? Are people even able to get their money off of there yet? Like, is it working yet?
yeah, you can bridge on and off.
Because I heard
It's
people were
just
not able to. Yeah, they weren't able to off ramp or something like that.
I don't believe they have off ramps set up, but you can bridge things onto it, and I believe bridge off of it, but you can't like go to fiat.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Pulse is a bit of a joke. It's highly community driven. They only have one viable stable coin over there too. I kind of heard that Richard
Yeah,
Hart was a scammer for a while there. I don't know how much. I don't know how
I
valid
mean
that is, but
they keep calling CZ Binance a scammer as well too, and just
yeah.
but everybody apparently in crypto is scammers. Oliver's a scammer. You heard it here first.
you, you son of a.
So,
Yeah.
but
Um.
yeah, no, I mean it's effectively. Effectively, the best way that I can kind of word it is, I mean, you should always do your own research. I never, whenever I'm trying something new, and this is that you can call me stingy, whatever it is. I usually never throw anything more than like $25 into something whenever I'm trying something new. Like most
Yeah.
people are like, oh, that's never enough to be able to figure out how it actually does. You got to put like $1,000 or $10,000 in there. No, it's not. You can extrapolate everything out. So, like in my opinion, if you want to try something new and you want to throw some money at something, but you have no idea what it's going to do, one, you do it in a wallet that's not connected to any of your other wallets. Two, throw an amount of money at it you are willing to just watch burn, and that's
Yeah.
that's my opinion on that. So, like I
Yeah.
did that with Pulse Chain, literally just created a totally separate wallet, move some funds over into it, and then set something up on Pulse Chain with like I think it was like $26. And I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? If this does great, awesome. If this burns to the ground, I've lost $26.
Yeah.
And that is my advice for like how if you want to look at something, you can test out new things in crypto without putting your main wallet at risk. Is have some other just throwaway wallets that if something goes sideways, you don't care what happens to that extra wallet.
Right. Yeah. That's smart. I mean, it's all relative,
Oh,
anyways. If
Cyril.
you're, what is he saying? Yeah. $26 a week. The Pepe whale put in 27.
I know. What a coward I am, right?
Oh, jeez.
That's because he put $100 in, and 27 was all he had left after gas fee.
And yet Pepe went up like 1,000,000%.
Welcome to ETH. Yeah, I mean that's 100% correct.
Jeez.
So
Gosh, that's what I don't get. Like every time I see an Ethereum token pumping, I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it. But you know what? At the same
there's
time,
money there, and they have nothing to do because
I
everything's so expensive. Like, here's an example that I'll bring up: is like how many of the little things on a daily basis could you imagine trying to do on Ethereum? Let's use Drip Network as an example of this, right? Could you imagine hydrating, clicking, claiming, moving stuff around, transitioning one thing from one to another? Like, there's not a chance in hell that that's going to work on Ethereum.
yeah.
Like what was it, Animal Farm, which I think was on BSC as well. Like, there's no way in hell that you're going to be able to do all the micromanaging that you have to do on that on Ethereum. You're going to end up paying $1,000 a day, and it's not going to work. So that's the
Yeah.
reason why. Anytime a new token comes out on like Ethereum or whatever it is, if people have like a monochrome of any kind of interest in it, it's like boom, this has done 100 million instantly, like overnight.
Yeah.
But it
It's
just functionally, it's not a blockchain you can really do a lot on, which is why, even though there's a lot of money there, it's sitting there and it's got nothing to do.
So
That's why
really,
they go crazy.
yeah. I mean, I'm really happy that Ethereum is, as big as it is and does as much volume as it does every day, because that's good for our bot. I honestly
I know it
really
needs to
would.
come down.
I guess the main draw of Ethereum is just Ethereum. Like it's not even the tokens, it's the coin Ethereum.
I mean, to a certain extent, yeah. Like it's just Ethereum is good because it is the backbone for everything else that kind of came to be. So, like, imagine like Ethereum is looking at like one of the first computers, so to speak. I mean, that's the best way that I can really word that. Or it's like looking at the first Microsoft computer, where it's like, we've now gotten to the point where there's so many other, features and functions and, layer two things that are out there. You got, from like HP to Dell to, um, NVIDIA, rocks, there's so many different computer company slash parts, all of that's out there now. Ethereum is like, the baseline computer that was originally built. It's like,
I
it's
I get
still
that.
great, but it's just everything else is kind of built on top of it at this point in time. And,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, yeah,
MS
it's
DOS.
literally
Yeah.
MS DOS.
I get that cuz like I love Binance, and there's new blockchains coming out that probably have better technology than Binance, but it's like I would be
Right.
very very hesitant to leave Binance.
Well, I
So,
mean, stuff like that. That's really interesting to me because, like, as we kind of look more towards, I'm going to use the example of like the metaverse and stuff like that. But like, as we look more towards like things being done digitally, we're kind of in a digital renaissance right now when it comes to cryptocurrency because we're getting to the point where you know even EVM compatible blockchains that are coming out now, there's not as much um, groundbreaking difference. And what I mean by that is there are so many people that are just like, you can almost copy paste a blockchain at this point in time. Yeah, I
mm.
know it's going to sound crazy to kind of say that, but it's like, I remember back when, we didn't have 50,000 dexes that were out there. There was a couple of dexes that were out there, but there came that period of time in like 2021, 2022, where everybody was making a dex, and that was like the thing to do. And now it's just like everybody's making a blockchain, and that's the thing to do, kind of thing. But it's
Yeah.
like they really aren't stepping up in like what kind of makes the next big thing. But there are a couple of blockchains that are out there that are really kind of trying to push that envelope and do stuff like that. And I find that really kind of interesting, especially with like um, exactly what Cyril just brought up. I was going to say like cross-chain, compatibility, because one of the biggest issues that we really kind of face is if you're doing something on Binance, you're into Binance, unless you bridge something over, and there's a whole process for that. But having the ability to freely flow from Binance to AVAX to Polygon to Arbitrum to, all of these across the board, the amount that you'll be able to bring to the table in terms of yield would be astronomical. And that's one of the things that I find super, super interesting about that, to kind of tie back to passive income here, is that it's really tough for us to be able to take everything that we have on Binance and then say, okay, Arbitrum in this specific DEX that's really, really stable has, great returns, but it's a huge hell of a process for us to get from Binance to using a bridge to Arbitrum to then on that DEX to deposit on that DEX, everything on that DEX, and then we have to bring those returns back over. So, I mean, really, as we kind of move into this, newer age of like, I guess what we'll call like layer zero slash the cross-chain unification, we're going to be at this point in time where it's going to be super, super easy. We could have something on Binance and then we could be like, cool. Oh, well, these returns over on the AVAX side of things are like 6% better. Let me just go there, and we can
Right.
do it at the drop of a hat with the snap of a finger. And that's what's kind of the most exciting thing for me, is because that should create this drive to make things better. That also allows us to further expand upon how quick and how fast things can be as well too. So like a great example of that, most of the time when somebody creates something like game-wise, I'm going to use this as an example. The biggest issue that they kind of face is the amount of time that it takes for somebody to do something and to create a call to a contract and then have that contract execute and then come back to the person. It can vary drastically. It could be 2 seconds. It could sometimes be 2 minutes. Like we've seen Polygon when it slows down. Matic can be a monster in that aspect. But as we kind of move into this unification, you can generally offload some stuff into other chains that you wouldn't necessarily have to worry about. Like it becomes this fully integrated universe where you can really do just about anything. And it really allows for us to get to that next level and that next step of technology that kind of provides that unification that really is needed in the crypto space. Like right now we kind of are in this position of like, hey, everybody's at everybody else's throats, and that's not generally the best way to kind of proceed forward. So that's my 2 cents.
Right on. Yeah, but yeah, I did see that, because back when we were all in Vulcan, we thought a new blockchain was just this just this amazing thing, and now it's like you can make a new blockchain pretty quickly, and without too much cost either. So it's
Yeah, and I mean, I think the other problem that people have as well too is they have a functional misunderstanding of like what blockchains generally do. And that's what gets me more so than anything else is like when looking at say Vulcan as like an example of this, and I've talked about it before, and I don't want anybody to feel like, hey, how could you not notice this kind of thing? Like I'm not bashing anybody. I want to make that clear and just transparent straight out the gate here. But there is this functional misunderstanding of what a blockchain is actually supposed to provide versus what projects on a blockchain are supposed to be able to provide. So a blockchain should provide the baseline technology that projects use to be able to do stuff. And the blockchain in of itself isn't responsible for blockchain. The blockchain is responsible for setting up things to allow projects that are going to be able to draw attention and attract attention to that given blockchain. A great example of that, if anyone brings up Binance, like, hey, what DEX do you use on Binance? The first one that comes to most people's mind, if they know anything about cryptocurrency at all, PancakeSwap.
Yep.
Just straight out the gate. Like if we're not talking about like transactions on a CEX, if we're talking about a DEX, the first thing that comes to basically everybody's mind that's out there, PancakeSwap. I mean, and Binance had nothing really to do with the setup of PancakeSwap. PancakeSwap became its own thing, but like drastically, much more activity and volume happens on PancakeSwap than any other DEX on Binance. And so Binance really just set the groundwork and said, here's the technology that we have. PancakeSwap said, okay, we're going to use that technology. We're going to create something amazing on it. Here we go. And then just kind of went from there. And then, of course, like with Ethereum and everything else that's out there, you have like Uniswap and stuff like that. So
right.
it's like there's so many different things that are associated to what a blockchain is able to kind of do. Where looking at Vulcan, it was like everybody just thought Vulcan was going to be, the coin of the gods, where it was going to come down and it's going to be the savior. And it was very tough to kind of have to sit back and be like, hey, I don't really want to bash this or people that are looking at putting their life savings into this kind of stuff. But it's like there's a very functional misunderstanding of what Vulcan is like. And I kind of see that with Vitruvio sometimes as well, too. And it hurts because I know Nick is doing everything that he can to kind of try and like recover and do the best that he can. But it's like there has to be this understanding within crypto that, like, in the same way that everybody was making a DEX, in the same way that so many people are trying to now create their own blockchains and that be the next big thing, it's like you have to be very careful about this stuff, guys. Like, there's a very drastic misunderstanding that most people have nowadays about the point of some of these things and what they do. It's like, if the technology is there, great, but if it's missing all of the other facets that are needed in order to make this thing work, you got to be careful about what you're doing. And that was one of the biggest things with Vulcan that caused at least the Prisma team to back out and be like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. Was that they couldn't tell us about liquidity at all. And that was the biggest issue that we had with the Vulcan blockchain, is that, like, we had no stablecoin, first and foremost, so it's nothing to pair to. And then the second thing behind that as well, too, is that we had no idea what liquidity was going to be there, what's going to be the process for getting on board and off board and stuff like that, bridging, everything. And it just was like, there were so many unanswered questions that made project lead, we get to kind of see these things. But that's the biggest warning that I can kind of bring up, is that please be careful as you're looking into this stuff. Don't just jump on some hype wagon or hype train or anything like that. Look into this stuff, ask questions. I mean, that's why we're here doing this with the Prisma One NFTs every single week, so you guys can ask questions. We want you guys to be able to come through, ask us whatever you kind of want, and get an answer. Or if I don't have an answer for you, I'll come back with an answer for you. But I hope that we can kind of get to this point where, like, people have this understanding that there's some tough things that you kind of have to do when you're looking at stuff. And it was really hard to kind of see what was going on with Vulcan. And I hope that as people kind of look into these other projects that are building their blockchains and stuff like that as well too, that you really have to look into, understand the tech, and ask questions about it as well. Because there's some things that are out there that kind of just say scare me is not the right way of wording it, but, like, it brings me worry,
Right.
Because I don't like seeing people get wrecked. I've been wrecked myself, but I don't like people getting hurt, especially not with with their money and stuff like that. So
Yep.
I guess hashtag rant over. Sorry.
No, that was great. Yep. I wish someone had told me, "Hey, Oliver, don't sacrifice. Wait for the price to get to 450." I wish, but obviously we all have stories like that.
I know you guys probably remember Moonrise, and she thanks me every once in a while for it as well too. But I told her to get out back when it was at, like, I think $300+ or whatever it is. She took some profit there.
No
She doesn't
kidding.
hate me.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah, it just was one of those things that mathematically I was like, this doesn't work right. And I was like, you know what? It's going to be under $1 by August, and it was under $1 by September. And that was, she beats me up over that in terms of, like, Seifu, because I was like, just because we started talking in, like, March, April and stuff like that, like right after Seifu came out, and I was like, you have to understand that fundamentally the price is going to go down at this specific rate because of inflation. And we were kind of going back and forth on it and everything. And I said, all right, I bet you Seifu will be under $1 by August. And it was under $1 by, like, September or something like that. She's never let me live it down.
Yeah. Cyril is saying, no, don't wait till it reaches 450. Just don't sacrifice.
Yeah, Cyril's not wrong. I did lose the bet on that one. But yeah, no, it's a tough time though. Please, people, be safe with your money. Be careful with what you're doing. Like, ask questions, and again, have conversations with other people. And in my opinion, anybody that is going to, like, ban you for asking questions, even hard questions, that's not the place that you want to be. Like, I know some people have seen the responses and the comments and the back and forth that I've had with people in, like, Prisma and stuff like that. Even people that are not 100% sure with what's kind of going on. Like I don't ban people. The only people that get banned in the Prisma channel are people that are obviously scamming. You
Right.
know, like they're posting malicious links and stuff like that, or they're sending people friends requests, you know, stuff like that. Um, you know, so we don't ban people for asking questions. And as far as I can tell, and as far as I'm aware, Oliver, you guys have that same mentality, where it's like, you know, we're gonna answer the hard questions straight up front, right to your face. You know, like we
Mm-hmm.
don't have any issue with, you know, being asked those hard questions versus, you know, some other things that we've kind of seen. And that's just one of the biggest glaring red flags that I can kind of bring up is like, just as you're in the crypto space and as this kind of gets more people coming back into the bull run, you know, that we're probably going to see next year, just be careful, guys. Okay. You know, we're a big giant family over here, and I don't want anybody to get I don't want anybody to have anything bad happen. So
Yep.
the last thing I'll say.
Cyril is saying you can join his Discord anytime and he'll ban you. So.
All right, I appreciate it, man. I will have to do.
Oh man. All right. Well, we've been going for an hour and 10 minutes. So.
Yep. I
Um.
think unless anybody's got any questions, we could probably call it here.
Yeah. Yep. I appreciate everybody being here. Moongod, thank you for being with us for over an hour. Cyril, thank you for dropping by. Thank you everybody in the audience and anybody who asked questions. Appreciate it.
Oh, before we go, real quick, I will say when this position does close out, we will do an announcement both in the One Token Discord as well as the Prisma Discord. So I don't want you
Sweet.
guys to think like, oh, we're gonna hide this from you. Again, like I said, we're hoping that it's gonna close out here early morning. Whenever we end up running into a situation when this closes out, we'll let you guys both know on both sides. So yeah,
Sweet.
just to jump in real.
Awesome. All right, Spicoli with the question: When Ferrari? Because When Lambo is not who we are sponsored by. So
When Honda Civic is what I'm going to go with over here. No, I mean, hopefully everything
Win
goes well and
AC.
we can have more. We can have more 11% weeks. That would be great. Absolutely.
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. Tiki, it's all recorded, buddy. I'm gonna post it immediately. So we talk about it in the
I'll just
first
say
few
it super
minutes.
quick. 0.52% is what we've got so far this week. That's over about a 3 to 4 day period. We are currently in a massive trade right now that if it closes out when we expect, probably this evening or early tomorrow morning, it'll be a situation where that'll be at about an 11% gain. So,
Nice.
yay, that's it.
Sweet. All right. That is it. All right, guys. We will talk to you later. See you.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye.